Good evening. This is Friday, April 25th, 193 days until the 2008 presidential election. It has been Senator Clinton's strategy to make Senator Obama seem unelectable in the general election. Yet what if her plan were not just to create an illusion of unelectability, but to actually guarantee that he cannot win in November, also that she might run again in 4 years' time? In our fifth story in the countdown, internet speculation about that is one thing. Public suspicion, voiced to and now by a prominent Democratic politician, an uncommitted superdelegate, is something else altogether. Congressman James Clyburn of South Carolina, the House Democratic whip, telling Reuters, quote, "There are African Americans who have reached the decision that the Clintons know that she can't win this, but they're hell-bound to make it impossible for Obama to win in November." He shared that sentiment and repeated it in another interview with the New York Times. Presently, Congressman Clyburn tells us more. First, the day's details. Mr. Clyburn, the third-ranking Democrat in the House and one of the nation's most influential African-American politicians, describing the Clinton campaign tactics as both scurrilous and disingenuous in the interview with Reuters, to the New York Times, talking about what appeared to be a near-unanimous view, to him anyway, among African-Americans, that Senator and President Clinton were committed to doing everything they possibly could to damage Senator Obama to a point where he could never win the general election. As for what Mr. Clyburn described as President Clinton's bizarre conduct during the Democratic primary campaign, the congressman adding that he believed there might be an irreparable breach between Bill Clinton and the African-American community that once revered him. Today, on the campaign trail in Indianapolis, Obama asked to respond solely to that one specific part of Mr. Clyburn's extensive comments. His campaign says this answer will stand for all of the remarks from the House whip.
You know, I never believe in irreparable breaches. I'm a big believer in reconciliation and redemption. Look, this has been a fierce contest. I am confident, I've said repeatedly, that come August, there are going to be a whole bunch of people standing on the stage with a lot of balloons and stuff, confetti raining down on the head of the Democratic nominee, and people are going to be excited about taking on John McCain in November.
Representative Clyburn, kind enough to join us now from Columbia, South Carolina. Thank you for your time tonight, Congressman.
Thank you so much for having me.
Your statement to Reuters about what you'd heard in South Carolina and what you'd heard on the House floor in Washington, the quote was, "There are African Americans who have reached the decision that the Clintons know that she can't win this, but they're hell-bound to make it impossible for Obama to win in November." Does that group include you, sir? Have you come to believe this yourself?
No, that didn't include me. I was sharing with the reporter things that had been said to me. And I had just talked to an African-American member on the House floor who said that to me. And I've gotten a lot of mail from people, telephone calls. I was on the campus of a university where the excitement was great back in January and February. Now they seem to be feeling that the gray beards are positioning themselves to overturn the will of the people. These superdelegates, they don't quite understand what the superdelegates are, and they think that we're waiting in the closet somewhere to snatch this nomination away. And so that's a feeling that people have got. And so that's all I was saying, that people are saying this, and I think it's a great concern.
Surely the specifics of the racial aspect to this are being overplayed, aren't they? I mean, if any Democrat were to deliberately try to undermine another Democrat's chances of winning in November, wouldn't that just be, regardless of color, gender, anything else, would that not be political treason or something like it?
That is absolutely correct. There's no question about that. That's why I keep telling people what I said to the New York Times the other day. I said in January, when we had the debate down at Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, I said, Bill Clinton needs to chill out. That was in January. At that point, everybody thought that this thing would be over on Super Tuesday in February. And everybody thought at that point that the nominee or the leading candidate for nomination would be Hillary Clinton. That's certainly what I thought. But even then, I thought the president was saying things that would anger black voters, and he should chill out. Now we are down into almost into May, And I'm saying the same thing. The only difference is that this time there's another person that's in the lead who happens to be African American. And so people are now applying the race thing to it, and it's no different from what I said way back in January.
So what do the Democrats do about this? Because if there's a large contingent of supporters who are necessary for an election in the fall, who believe that there is essentially, a traitorous acts going on to keep one person from being the nominee, how do you bring the party together behind either of those nominees or even a third person?
Well, it's going to be that's my point. Between now, we have 9 contests left. I think the conduct of this campaign, going into North Carolina and Indiana, the conduct of this campaign in those 2 states could very well be determinative as to what we will have after we get a nominee. I think we're at a very critical point in this process, and if we're not careful, we could do irreparable harm. If we conduct ourselves between now and May 6th, with everybody talking about their platform, everybody talking about their vision for the future, everybody talking about what the Democratic Party means to the American people, then a climate, I think, will be created whereas we will close this nominating process down, and whoever is in first place, whoever wins the nomination, will, in fact, have the other person's support.
So the gist of this today is, from the remarks that you made to the New York Times and to Reuters, is that you've heard this enough that it's a problem in the campaign that the Clinton campaign needs to address in some way, but you yourself are not necessarily of the opinion that they're actually sabotaging Obama's chances in November if he's the nominee.
That's correct. And I'm not, in fact, I've seen some writings today from opinion writers all over the country now saying the same thing. In fact, I understand that the New York Times article is going to run a story on Sunday saying that they're gathering that same kind of sentiment from all over the country. So I'm not saying anything that people aren't saying among themselves, and many of them are saying it to me. It just so happens that on yesterday or the day before, whenever I said it, I made public what I had been told.
I think that took some courage, sir. James Clyburn of South Carolina, third-ranking Democrat in Congress. Great thanks for some of your time tonight.
Thanks for having me.